Okay, ladies and gentlemen, so in this question, we're simplifying the square root of 75. And remember, we're not approximating, we're simplifying. So when we simplify square roots, what we want to do is we want to think of the factors of this number in here, right? So if I think of the factors of 75, right, obviously 1 times 75 are factors, but that's not really going to help me any because I already see 75 there. So other factors of 75 can be like 15 times 5, right? 15 times 5 gets me 75, but what I'm looking for is one of these two numbers, one of these two factors to be a perfect square. Now remember that a perfect square is when you multiply a number times itself. So if I take 15, right? 15 is not a perfect square because there is no number that I can multiply times itself that gets me 15, right? So like if I multiply 3 times 3, that gets me 9. That's not 15. If I multiply 4 times 4, that gets me 16. That's not 15, right? And 5 isn't a perfect square either. The only way I get 5 is 1 times 5. And there is no number that I multiply times itself to get me 5. If I multiply 2 times itself, 2 times 2 gets me 4. 3 times 3 gets me 9. So these two are not perfect squares. So I got to think of two other factors of 75, right? Two numbers that when I multiply I get 75, but one of them has to be a perfect square. Well, in this case, you have 25 times 3. 3 is not a perfect square, but 25 is. 5 times 5 gets me 25. So 25 is my perfect square. So now what I want to do is I want to rewrite. So now what I'm doing is I'm using these guys, right? So now I'm going to rewrite the square root of 75 in this way, right? So I'm going to go the square root. Instead of 75, I'm going to write the square root of 25 times 3. Because 25 times 3 is 75. Right, so the square root of 25 times 3, which I'm going to rewrite as the square root of 25 times the square root of 3. I cannot get the square root of 3, but I can get the square root of 25. So the square root of 25 is 5. So now I just went square root of 25 is the same thing as 5. I'm going to write times the square root of 3 because I still don't know what the square root of 3 is, right? And this is otherwise known as, instead of just 5 times the square root of 3, is otherwise known as 5 square root 3. Another way to say this is 5 radical 3, because we in math call this symbol the radical symbol. So, or 5 rad 3, right? So this is the simplification. 5 radical 3 is the simplification of the square root of 75. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, I hope this video helped.